Health Minister Dr Zweli Mkhize has announced a new ministerial advisory committee with a special focus on COVID-19 vaccines. Now, my understanding, this is not to replace the team that is headed by Professor Salem Abdul Karim, but it's rather to focus specifically on the vaccines and making sure that we get supply here in South Africa. Well, I'm joined now by Professor Barry Schoub, who heads up this new team. Good evening, Professor. Thanks so much for your time. So my understanding is this is a totally new team, and you've got a very specific mandate. You're not replacing the original team. Just explain it to us.
Yes, good evening, Sally. This is a new MAC, or Ministerial Advisory Committee. And I say new, really, we've only been in existence for just over 2 weeks. So the primary objective is really to develop a national COVID-19 vaccine framework for the country. As you can imagine, there are no vaccines internationally available. They are undergoing trials. Many vaccines are undergoing trials, as you probably know. There are 240 candidate vaccines, 42 of them on clinical tests, and 8 of them are now the more advanced tests, the phase 3 trials. So where we are at the moment is that there are no vaccines available. What this particular COVID MAC vaccine advisory committee, its mandate is to kind of look at all the issues. And the issues are fairly complex. It's issues of procurement, issues of evaluation, which vaccines would be suitable for South Africa in terms of efficiency, in terms of safety, in terms of applicability to our country. And then once vaccines are available, of course, there'll only be initially a relatively small fraction of vaccines. So who would be the priority groups to get those vaccines? These are all quite complex issues which this committee is wrestling with.
All right, so that really gives us a very good idea. I was wondering why, for example, someone like vaccinology Professor Shabir Mahdi is not on the team that you are running. Of course, he's a part of the original MAC. He is running the WITS trial on vaccines. Wouldn't he be a perfect person to have on the trial? Or is it better not to have someone on the team who's directly involved in one of the trials?
You've actually said it exactly. You actually took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, we would certainly value expertise, such as Shabir Mahdi's expertise, but it would not be appropriate for him to be on a team where there would be a conflict of interest. So being involved in a trial would potentially have some conflict of interest. So all the members of the committee have made a declaration of their interests. We've evaluated it. One of our members, in fact, is a professor of medical ethics, Professor Ames Dye. So the members of this team need to have no conflict of interest, like myself, for example, and it's ready to be completely objective.
How do you evaluate a vaccine? I mean, as you said, there are 240 candidate vaccines, 8 are in advanced stage. How on earth do you assess which one's the safest? I mean, we heard that Russia is testing their vaccine on 40,000 people, but, you know, there's all concerns that it's being rushed and not done ethically. Do you literally get access to all their documentation and go, yeah, they've ticked the box here, they've ticked the box here, this looks safe? Is that how you do it?
No, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Basically, initially, obviously, one would look at published data on efficacy, on safety, and so on. But that's only the start of the story. There's a regulatory authority. There's a regulatory authority of the WHO, which would pre-qualify vaccines. There's also what you call stringent regulatory authorities. These are authorities, for example, the FDA in the United States, and so on. And then, of course, we've got our own SAPRA, South African Product Health Regulatory Authority, which would look at in great detail the protocols. And I say these protocols come by the truckload, if I can put it that way. In great detail, the materials that are used. Part of it, of course, is evaluating those phase 3 trials. Yeah. But there's a lot more to it. You know, it's the stabilizer that you use, the chemicals that are used, etc., etc. It goes through a very rigorous regulatory inspection.
And that is really good to hear, because vaccine safety is so absolutely crucial. I was wondering, you know, you've been in this role for 2 weeks, so I'm sure that you're keenly watching all the trials, especially the ones that are looking more advanced. Could you tell us at this point which trials, which vaccines to you are looking most promising at this stage, and whether the VITS vaccine trial, which I understand has just restarted after that little break, about, you know, just for a safety break to look at the person who got sick, which vaccine trial is looking most promising? Are there a number that you're going, yeah, those look really hopeful, and by when?
Yeah. So to be quite honest, if we look at all those 8 candidate vaccines, the preliminary data which has been published, and is published in peer-reviewed journals, they all look very good. And even data on the Russian vaccine, which is published, it is published quite recently in the Lancet. That kind of data looks good, but that's very, very preliminary data. That's not data on which one can actually make a decision on. It's very useful information. To say of those which are front runners is very, very difficult. They all provide good data, and that's of course very good news. You know, I think a vaccine against coronavirus is not too difficult conceptually, scientifically. It's quite a different story to, for example, the HIV vaccine candidate or vaccine trials. That's much more complicated. So at this stage, it's really, we can't really say which is better than others. They all have got favorable initial data on the evaluations.
All right, so they're all in the race. I'm sure we'll be having many more conversations in the months to come. Thank you very much for your time this evening. We do appreciate it. Professor Barry Schoub is heading up a new ministerial advisory committee with a very special focus on vaccines, choosing the right one for South Africa and making sure that we actually do get stock when it becomes available.